Hello and welcome to this episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. I'm your host, Mary Czarnecki, and today I am excited to introduce you to Tim Bradley. Tim is going to be our guest expert today. He is going to be dropping all sorts of knowledge for you, answering questions about how you can use video marketing more effectively in your business, no matter whether you are a small startup or a huge enterprise. So Tim, if you're not familiar with him or you haven't met him before, is the co-founder of Pennant Video. They're a B2B focused agency that has pioneered the video marketing trifecta. And he's going to tell us exactly what that is. But if you've ever wondered whether you should be using video in a better way or even at all in your organization, this is the episode for you. So welcome, Tim. So excited to have you on the Sticky Note Marketing Show.
Thank you, Mary. Wow, that was quite the introduction. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
I know there are going to be people listening to this episode who know you and maybe even know you really well. But for those who are meeting you for the first time, tell us a little bit about Pennant Video and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, it's easier for me to start with the second part. So I've been a diehard sort of creative video person at large my entire tenure, right? Came out of college, did the classic, open up the first credit card, buy a MacBook Pro, buy a camera, go into a bunch of debt. But it was really awesome to just be immersed, do the thing, right? Do the craft day in and day out and just hone from there. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey. Last like 12 years agency side, and then jumped to create my own agency about 2 years ago, Pennant Video. And yeah, it's been that whole track has been supporting brands, largely B2B in all shapes, sizes, all sorts of awesome marketers and brand directors and et cetera. So it's been really incredible.
Fantastic. I'm excited to dig into this marketing trifecta, but before we get there, I know one of the big questions I have, being a marketer myself, coming from brands management myself, is always the fit of marketing and video with that journey we're trying to create, right? The experiences we're trying to bring to life to move our audience closer to us. So, as you're working with some of your clients or speaking to businesses out there, where are you seeing the biggest gaps right now in terms of using video?
Yeah, the biggest gap is definitely the middle of the funnel, right? Because it's like there's tons of investment and attention to the top of the funnel to sell the click, right? It's like that is the goal to get someone from somewhere else, some other destination, and arrive at your place of business, right? Like your website or landing page and et cetera. So tons of effort put there, of course. And then at the bottom of the funnel, and I would say that's that nurture, that affinity play. The responsibility is often by the internal teams because they're inside the four walls. They're taking care of the thought leadership and the event support and social media and employer branding, et cetera, the internal comms galore, right? So perfectly appropriate. And so because of that, there's this divided attention on top and bottom, and then the middle, it causes a gap. And especially for B2B, where most buying cycles are like 8, 9 months, a year, even longer. And there's so many like stakeholders that are responsible for buying decisions, right? So it's like, how do you create a journey? We all know this, how do you create a journey for like with the appropriate touch points, but more appropriately, how do you do it in the preferred medium of audiences everywhere? And that's video, right? So video is like perfectly complex to produce, perfectly like rich in opportunity to have a real sort of proliferation of your brand and how you support your mission. But yeah, it takes a lot of care and attention in the middle where this like the battlegrounds are really for attention.
I like pointing out that, right? Because I've talked to so many guests who come on the show here and they're like, we got to focus on the top of the funnel, right? We just got to get people into the business. But what I'm hearing you say is that's great. And yes, that's necessary. We have to get people interested and know that we're even out there. But then what? Then we just leave them hanging a little bit. Is that what happens?
Yeah, to each their own, but that's the observation I had at my old agency where I was there. We were servicing Kickstarter to Fortune 5, every industry, every channel, every type of content from everything from like commercials to internal comms to podcast to live. And like within all of that, it was clear that the most impactful content was the mid funnel because it is like this gap in a lot of marketing mechanics, right? So that's where our emphasis is at Pennant and where we really encourage brands to make those wise investments, right? Because sure, you did the hard work of getting attention in the first place, but how do you build trust, build a sense of belief in what you're about in your buyer's eyes, right? Or your prospects' eyes to turn them into buyers, right? And yeah, it's just taking that care in the middle really pays off in the long run.
That's interesting, but it's true, right? So you've made the investment, you've gotten their attention, now they're moving through the funnel. But like you pointed out, I think astutely, whether it's B2B, I know a lot of B2C firms that have a similar thing, but the sales cycle can be very long and extended. And if you lose their attention in the middle, you're out of luck. So tell us a little bit about how this fits in with what you developed around the trifecta, because I know that you have this signature system that you focus on.
Yeah, exactly. So the premise of that is that no single video can do there's no silver bullet when it comes to just like a single video. And that's the thing we've all seen really, where it's one video is trying to do too much. It's trying to speak to too many audiences. It's trying to speak to too many pain points. It's trying to describe your business like, and your audience doesn't really care in this case. Yeah, because it's like, what's in it for me from the audience's point of view, right? What we developed is a system called the Video Marketing Trifecta. It's built on three prongs, hence the name, and it's really to help brands differentiate from their competition, demonstrate their solution, and validate their offering in the eyes and minds of their audiences, right? So these are tools ultimately, and respectively, they are Anthem videos, explainer videos, and endorsement videos. So if you want, I can like succinctly talk to each, or we can.
Yeah, give us an idea. What are we talking about when we're thinking about these three areas?
Yeah, so anthems, easy, your mission, your value pieces, right? Like they should really express your brand's why you exist, why your audience should care, and that's that clear like differentiator from your competition ultimately. Of course, explainers, everybody knows what those are, and it's because they work, right? They describe what you do and how you do it, like clearly, creatively, ideally in a sort of like edutainment sort of way, right? So it shows your sort of brand persona and style in the way that it's produced. And then endorsement videos, aka customer stories or testimonials, right? These are your real like proof points, trust builders, validators, right? Because they showcase who you're for and where, right? So like to have these distinct prongs helps you as like the marketer to tell that story in a fashion that builds a journey and builds trust at each of these sort of touch points. And then of course, like with the investment in any of these, you can have so much other assets and supporting content to support sales, to support social, to support internal comms, because you've told such a clear story that now the art, the investment in the library of all the visuals, all the care that you put into the message can be like expanded, a ripple effect across your enterprise.
Amazing. Amazing. So hopefully all of you guys have your sticky notes. Theme of sticky note marketing show here. You got to have your thing. He just gave you three
Oh yeah,
key
got mine ready.
sections you need to be thinking about for your business. And I like how you broke that down too, because in my work, right, in the workshops and consulting I do for my businesses, a lot of my clients talk about we just need to tell them about the features, right? And I'm trying to get them to think more about the story, think in a more audience-centric way, which I think is exactly what you're inviting people to do. Is yes, you need to, for example, in your explainer video, explain the thing, but you need to do it in a way that's going to work for them. So where do you see people getting stuck there, especially in a B2B situation? How do you help people, yes, express what they want to express about the details, right? All the technical things that we have to get across, but in a way that's actually going to connect, because you know what connects in video.
Yeah, it's a cool. I love that question because is the main parts of that answer are that you got to lead with empathy, right? Like empathy for that audience. What are the things that they care about? What are the things that keep them up at night? What are the things that are like that maybe they haven't even heard of yet that need to help them like unlock the next sort of capacity in their role or in their business? So putting yourself in your audience's shoes, it sounds so simple, but like it's really difficult to do when you've been inside the four walls of a brand for years or decades, and you're supporting all these different key stakeholders and needs inside the business, right? But pausing and assuring that you're doing like the service to your audience, to that prospect, in the way you're delivering your message in this medium, right? Like more U's than I's, more showcase of value and expertise and results than features, right? I also say that video is the strongest medium, but it's part of a greater marketing ecosystem you've got going on. So you have those white papers that have the sort of FAQs or the feature sets, right? You're invariably trying to get them, this prospect, on the phone with a salesperson. So let them do the sort of deeper dive into things, right? So use video as that carrot on the string, that like desire to learn more, to take the next step, that next action.
Yeah, I like that. I think that goes back to the point you made earlier of we can't just make one video and make it do all the things. We're just trying to get this video to get them to do this thing, and this video gets them to do this thing. Is there anyone that pops to mind, without revealing any names or trade secrets or anything like that, of someone that you helped go from that before to after? Okay, they either were not using video in this way, or they were trying to do the one video that did everything, that you were able to help unpack this a little bit?
Yeah, I do, and I'll get to it. The thing that I'm always finding is that once you produce one video, you start to unlock the desire from audiences and from other Salesforce and like other stakeholders that like it has a compounding like interest internally, and you've gone through the hardest first step exercise of building the thing because like video is a very complicated medium like appropriately with like message and tone, sound and picture and design. And it's really rewarding to come out of the backside of that with something you're proud of because you've gone through all these like learnings to then produce the next set of things in support of your audience's buying decisions. That's really what you're trying to do is empower decision making. But yeah, so we often our favorite ones are when there's this like inflection point or this like moment of like a rebrand is usually like the perfect moment for this type of thing because you need to like synthesize positioning, messaging, communication, identity, infusing it all into a really impactful, like emotionally resonant moment, right? And so an Anthem video is timed for that, right? Because you're talking, what is that like 45, 60-second mission statement-esque piece that isn't about you, but it's about your audience and assuring they see themselves in your desires as a brand and a business and the values you all uphold, right? So much like responsibility in that moment for everybody involved. And so for that reason, it's challenging, but that becomes such a blue chip asset, that flagship asset that can be used like in perpetuity on websites, in events and lead ups to customer conferences and SKOs and like all it's like your rallying cry, right? And so it's such like a cool thing. We've been doing a few of those recently that we're all really proud of. And that's just like such a, again, like a staple flagship type of piece.
Well, I'd imagine that's that kind of one, the Anthem one especially, would be great, not even just for the external audiences, but
Oh
even
yeah.
onboard
Recruiting. Yep.
internal. Yeah,
Exactly. The infusion of message and sentiment and purpose. It's super powerful. Yep.
that's amazing. So you mentioned that inflection point of the rebrand, right? So I can imagine that definitely being a key point when someone might want to say, okay, I need to invest in video in a new, fresher, different way. When you think about businesses in general, though, someone
Mhm.
listening to this that's either a contributor to a business or owns the business, runs the business, if they're asking themselves, okay, is now the right time? Should I be doing this? Like, when is the right time for someone to be thinking about video?
Yeah, we all know the plant a tree proverb, right? But no, in all seriousness, some of the best moments are when you're realizing there's a bottleneck in your communication, right? And just like, how do I get this message out here succinctly, consistently, and with st like kind of style, right? And uniqueness to what we've got going on. So those are often the best sort of like moments to consider, right? In this leadership role, saying the same sort of thing over and over again. Yeah, you're going to continue to do that, but how can you have this video work on your behalf too? And especially on the only salesperson you've got working 24/7, your website, right? Having that message exist there just assures that it's succinct and there's clarity and there's differentiation, right? And so that's anytime there's a bottleneck is a really smart time to consider it.
That's so smart. So getting that question, right? Okay, again, sticky note, guys, whether you're listening or watching this, where are those bottlenecks, right? Like you mentioned, this is something that can work for you 24/7, right? When they're not on the call with your Salesforce, when they're not opening your email, right? This is there for them when they actually want to consume it. Just
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and I'm actually glad you brought that up because it's two-pronged, right? It's like the bottleneck for from your own observations of communication, et cetera, but also like where are you seeing the bottleneck in the buyer's journey, right? Oh, maybe this is a moment to infuse video, the medium that like is most humanized to continue them in trust building.
Yeah. Even as a keynote speaker myself, I know those people that have seen my speaker reel or have seen the clips of me speaking, that moves a lot faster than someone who comes to me and they're like, oh, I saw your page or I saw your write-up or even a description of the talk I give is still not as powerful as I want to see you in action. I want to, how are you going to sample what I can do? The best way is going to be able to actually see it live to see that video.
Absolutely. Yep. You're especially in B2B when arguably everything is actually about relationships, right? It's like how do you infuse that early to differentiate? How do you like demonstrate value across the journey and then close a deal through trust?
And you brought up that brings up something in mind too, and especially for those of us in, B2B scenarios. So for those of you guys listening or watching this that are dealing with a B2B type business model. A lot of the clients that I work with, I don't know if this is your experience, Tim, when it's a B2B scenario, there's, I think, a myth that B2B buyers make very much more rational decisions than consumers. In my experience, I don't find that to be true. I find there still needs to be that emotional connection. So, especially those who may be listening in a very kind of specialized environment that has legal, regulatory kind of challenges, things like tobacco or things like alcohol or things like med device or things like that. When you have those specialized scenarios, what might they have to consider? What do you invite your clients to think about when starting to explore some of the things we've been talking about with video?
Yeah, those are really cool and challenging industries. Like for us, we're deep into like safety, security, sustainability types of brands that work with those sets of values, right? Those have complex buying decisions. Those have complex regulations, right? So like how to navigate that it is through, of course, time and investment in anything. But then once you have the medium doing the work for you that's been approved beyond reasonable doubt, right? That is now a workhorse on your behalf. So yeah, it's a really like exceptional challenge. And it's a lot of the times it's just like, how can you literally say the thing you want to say versus get bogged down in like bad acronyms and just the over index like bingo card of B2B vernacular. It's just like that exercise alone is so worthwhile because you realize nobody actually talks like this in the way we're writing our copy in these places, right? So just exploring the medium at all of these stages, like just supports your greater comm strategy.
Amazing. And how does it help with video versus something else? You were talking about, I might have a deeper detailed piece, right? Or a sales aid that can go into all the details. What would you say is the best way to use video in when you're thinking about that marketing mix for B2B?
Yeah, supporting players anywhere and everywhere is great, right? So like we often support clients that have the annual report, right? Like it's really rich with detail and insightful information that's going to help their audiences make decisions in the next calendar year, right? But how do you get traffic to this thing, right? You're not going to, be like, here, read our 100-page report without explaining like why, what's in it for me from the audience's point of view, and like why should I care? So that's where leading with video or using video as a supporting part of your market strategy, right? To drive traffic to the thing to download, right? So that's just one example.
I like that. So making it consumable, make it real, make it relatable, but then potentially also let it.
In when and where it makes sense, right? Especially like annual reports, like these, at least the brands we're working with, they're usually launching them a certain time of the year for a certain reason. And that's usually because the benchmarks indicate whatever it is, like growth or otherwise in the category. So people are making decisions based on, yes, data. And as you said, this is the reality of a situation, but also emotionally, like where am I in my seat today and where do I aspire to be in my career? And so that's where emotion is really like strong.
Amazing. I love that. As we're getting to the end of our episode, I have I guess a more personal question for you, Tim, if you're up for it. A lot of the times when I talk to people in my workshops or my private clients, one of the things we're all struggling with is how to stay inspired, how to stay in tune with what the latest is and what the news is, and staying up with trends and information. Let me ask you, how do you, as a leader in your own business, stay inspired? Where do you go to find your areas of new information or new updates on what's going on, what's working now?
Yeah, I have the staples, and a lot of those are those like annual reports of sorts. So the one for me right now is Wistia. So they're largely marketing centric platform for video hosting, right? So we use them ourselves and most of our clients use them, but they have so much insights from their users, right? As far as just like the data of how video is being used and where and into what successes and trends and strategies and things like that. So that stuff is always like really helpful markers on the calendar for us to look forward to and be inspired by and help make informed decisions. But for me, and this is what's ironic, is that I love video. I love watching video. I love making videos. Like I love helping brands be successful with video marketing, right? It's like also just get out behind the screen and go network and shake some real hands, right? So it's those moments are really like inspired and you realize the people that you're producing the work for in the first place are real people, right? So show up where your buyers are for sure and get a sense of where they're at in their day to day. That just pays off in spades across the board.
I love that. So actually getting to meet people in real life, remembering the
Yep.
human.
Real life IRL networking. Yeah.
Fantastic. I am sure everyone has a very full sticky note coming out of today. Thank you, Tim, so much for sharing your expertise, your advice, the trifecta with us. Any parting thoughts, any final tips or advice for the team today?
It won't fit on a sticky note, but we have this playbook, a short ebook called Funnel Focus, and it's about just where and how to consider video in your buyer's journey across the whole funnel. So we'll drop that in the show notes, I suspect. We can also get it on our website. And there's a fun like worksheet or quiz, right, to help you navigate like where video can make the most like impact on your business this year.
Oh, fantastic. I always love a good quiz. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Tim. Like he said, we'll definitely be including the link directly to Funnel Focused, which will be their video marketing playbook for those of you guys who want to get your hands on it. And then for anyone who has questions for you specifically, Tim will include your links. But if you were going to say the best place to find you online, what would that be for people?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Catch me in the DMs. No, but then again, our website is pennant.video, so you can get a little more insight into how the trifecta might work for you.
Fantastic. All right. So we'll make sure to include those links wherever you're watching or listening to this. Thanks, Tim, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And for all of you guys listening, looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. Drop your comments, your questions below wherever you're watching or joining us from, and we will make sure that we get your answers supporting your business going forward. And we'll see you on the next episode.